Welcome, everybody, to the RnR Catcast, a fan-based podcast focusing on Montana State athletics. We're two dudes named Ryan from the state of Washington talking about our dear Montana State. We hope you enjoy. All right, welcome back, Bobcat fans. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the RnR Catcast. I'm Ryan Foley. I'm joined with my good buddy, Ryan Thornburg. We are the Ryans of the RnR, the Montana State affiliate of the Big Sky Podcast Network. And we want to give a thank you, shout out to Gear Up Sports for being our sweet sponsor. Gear Up Sports is a youth sports platform focusing on solving the uniform and apparel headache for the coaches. If you're a youth or high school coach, want some uniforms or need some player packs, contact them at www.gearupwithus.com and make sure to mention the RnR Catcast. Gear Up Sports is a Bobcat run company to boot. That's pretty cool. Thorny, man, how you doing, dude?
I'm doing great, man. It's Monday. Coming off, everyone knows what we're coming off of. The big win. The bracket's out. Everything's coming up Bobcats. I'm in a fantastic mood.
It's coming up Bobcats. I like that saying. Yeah, I tempered my intro on this episode, and I'm not going to apologize. I know a lot of people are like, I was in, like you said, cool, calm, and collected for this Bobcat. It was a lot of people are seeing the most calm brawl that they have experienced. I don't care, man. I was happy. I was happy for multiple reasons. For one, being the Grizz, yes. I expected to beat the Grizz. But two, being number one and 12-0. I think that's what I was most excited about, was this mounting narrative all season long where, can we do it? Can we do it? And we did it. And you heard that on the intro of the Instant Reaction show. That's where I was at.
Yeah, you were jacked, but that's okay. That is okay. You should be. Should be. Enjoy this moment, man. This is amazing.
It is. It is really cool. Historic moment, right? Montana State's 12-0. We're number one in the FCS. We're number one playoff seed. Whew. Second season's about to start. We are going to Bozeman in 2 weeks. You and I are going to be there.
That's right. I booked the flight today.
Oh, man.
I'm so excited to be back in Bobcat Stadium. I didn't even think about that right now. I'm in a good mood, and I forgot that I booked a flight to Bozeman to watch football. Now I'm in a better mood.
Yeah, the Ryans are going to be back in the homeland. It's magical, man. It's really good stuff. So, all right. Hey, let's give a little bit of a rundown on what's to be expected in the show today. A little bit different because Coach Vegan did not come to the mic today. There is more to come next week when we know who we are going to play, and Coach Vegan will give his weekly press conference then. But they're treating this like a bye week, as they should, because it is. So we'll talk about the stats, top 25. I'm going to mention it because we are finally in the top. We are in the top spot, which we want to celebrate. We'll break down the Cat Grizz a little bit more. Thorny and I talked about, not sure what that looks like. Maybe we gloat. We talk about some matchups or what it means for Montana State. And we'll get into the playoff bracket. And today with some Golden Coolie questions.
Dang, I forgot to ask the Twitter machine for Golden Coolies. I don't really have too many.
Yeah, there's not much on Bobcat Nation, too. A couple guys typed some in, and I appreciate that they do that without me asking anymore, and that's just really nice.
That's good. Yeah,
I forget quite often anymore.
Yeah, there's a dedicated thread on Bobcat Nation on Twitter. It's just like, maybe someone will ask and tag me or something, but usually if I don't ask, nothing comes through. It's my fault.
All righty, but first let's talk about what's in our Golden Coolie.
What's in Your Golden Coolie is sponsored by Wilbur Ellis. Go see Shea Richter and Company up in Fort Benton for all of your farming and fertilizer needs. I came back with this quite a while ago. This is still from that big stash from Montana. I bought the Western Cider Poor Farmer Hard Cider, which is from where? Where is this from? Made in
Say that
Montana.
again.
Western Cider. I think it's the brewery, whatever. Is that what they're called? Are they called cider breweries? Cider makers. Poor Farmer Hard Cider. Where is this from? Bitterroot Valley. Must be Missoula. Or somewhere. I don't know. Doesn't say on there. But yeah, anyway, I got a cider, a Montana cider. I don't know if I've ever had a Montana cider before. Pretty good.
Do you think that's the first cider you've debuted on the podcast?
I was thinking about that. I'm pretty sure I've had some ciders on here. Not many, but I'm pretty sure I've had one or two.
I know I've never had a cider. So couldn't think if you had or not. I have the Celebration beer. If you know, you know. You already know what it is. Green can Sierra Nevada Pale Ale.
Ding.
Out of Chico, California. Yeah, I just knew when Montana State won, had to go get some. So there we go. Sierra Nevada Pale Ale.
You didn't have one already queued up in there?
No, I didn't.
Pre-purchased the victory beer? You weren't as confident as Zach and I were.
I wasn't. I was pretty confident as far as Cat Grizz games goes, but hey, man, it's a rival game. It's the rival game as far as I'm concerned. So you never know what happens on these, but it played out kind of what we thought would happen. They even covered the 16.5 point spread.
Which I thought was crazy. As confident as I was, I'm like, 14 points, I'd have been ecstatic with 14-point win.
Mm-hmm. Let's get into just some of the little stuff that goes on before we get into the talk about the Cat Grizz. I think Adam Jones was Freshman of the Week, Big Sky Player of the Week, Freshman of the Week today. That sounds right, Thorny?
Absolutely.
Okay. It is right then, if you say so. And Montana State finally comes in at number one. We say it every week. 51 first place votes, Montana State. Number 2, South Dakota State. Came up from number 3, North Dakota State falls with their loss to number 3. South Dakota, number 4. UC Davis finishes 5. That is something I did not have on my bingo card at the very beginning of the season.
I had them crashing down the stretch.
Yeah. Incarnate Word, number 6. Idaho secures the 7 spot. They were 7 last week as well. Looks like Mercer, Richmond, Rhode Island. There's your top 10. Montana drops from number 9 to number 13. And I do believe Northern Arizona cracks the top 25 or top 20 at number 17. They were 21 last week. So there's your final top 25 from the 2024 season. Montana State finishes on the top. 12-0.
Shout out to Sean Anderson from the I forget what they called it. They rebranded it the Hack City. They do the FCS podcast. We had him and Joe DeLeon. Sean Anderson, we had him on the podcast a year or two ago, remember?
Oh yeah.
Sean has been consistently putting Montana State number 1 in his poll the entire year. So shout out to Sean Anderson. He knows. He knew.
Does he listen?
Doubt it, but
yeah.
just you never know, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's cool. It's Montana State 12-0. We beat them all. Now we got 4 more. It's crazy to think,
and we get to go to one, and hopefully more.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping. All right, Thorny, what should we get into next? So we talked about Adam Jones. We didn't talk about his individual stats. We'll get into that here in a moment. Any other things that come to mind as far as news goes?
Well, Brent Vigen was nominated for some award. Do you know what it is?
No, I haven't heard.
I don't know if it made it over to Bobcat Nation, and now I don't have it, of course. But he's nominated for some Coach of the Year award. I don't know if it's a regional thing or whatever, but yeah, Coach Vigen was nominated for a Coach of the Year award.
Now that we're talking Coach Vigen, 12-0. what kind of offers you think Vegan's going to field in the next month?
Eddie Robinson, Coach of the Year finalist. That's what it is. That's a big one.
Okay.
And yeah, we're not talking about any of that stuff here. We're not talking about transfer portal, coaching rumors. No. We're living
Well,
in
I
the
haven't
moment.
seen any rumors, but it's with his winning record and then what's going on right now as far as just the body of work already he's put forth. I can't imagine he wouldn't have some offers.
Everybody enjoy everything on this team while it's here.
Yeah.
Just put it that way.
Okay. Yeah. Don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I would predict he stays. I'm just going to put that out there. And I think it has something to do with his sons, but it also has something to do with the projection of who I think he is as a person and where Montana State is probably going to end up being in the next couple years. And so, salaries I think will continue to go up as far as what he will earn. But if Mount West comes and says, here's $2 million to coach our football team, it'd be hard to say no to that, no matter what.
Especially like a program. I don't know, like just a similar program. Like, I mean, Wyoming obviously comes to mind, but I don't know.
But
Again,
if Montana State's having conversations with him, and I know we don't want to spend too much time with this, but like if there's backroom conversation saying, "Hey, we want you here." Obviously, they're saying that to Coach Vegan. Not that we want you here, but here's what's going to happen. Here's what we're hearing. Here's what we're projecting in the next couple of years. Do you want to be a part of this still? That's a good spot to be because we know he loves Bozeman. So I think he's in for a while right now. That's where I'm landing. Yeah, me too.
Agreed.
All right, let's get into the stats.
The stats. Oh man, I don't have the ad read pulled up. Foley, I'm a mess.
You are kind of all scattered brain tonight.
I'm happy. It was a great weekend. I've had a couple of beers. The stats is brought to you by Pronghorn Wealth. If you haven't looked at the stats on your company's 401k since, I'll just say it again, since the Grizz won in Bozeman, because that's just going to keep going up now, reach out to Kendall at Pronghorn Wealth to benchmark your current plan fees at pronghornwealth.com. 34-11, Foley. 34-11. Your Bobcats, your Montana State Bobcats, take care of the pesky Grizzlies in Bozeman to cap off that undefeated season. Let's get into the stats. 21st down for the Bobcats to just 13 for the Grizz. The Grizzlies were 2 of 12 on third down. That's not going to cut it. The Cats were 6 of 12, respectable 50%. That's right around like the kind of the minimum baseline, I'd say. The Grizz were 1 of 2 on fourth down. The Cats were 0 for 1. 422 yards of total offense for the Cats, 94 through the air on 6 of 12 passing for 7.8 yards per attempt, just 12 attempts, just 6 completions. But here we go again. Why would you pass the ball when you can run for 328 yards on 50 attempts for 6.6 yards per carry? And yeah, the Grizzlies had a little bit of success through the air, but it felt like it. But then looking back on this, like 117 passing yards on 18 of 35 attempts, 3.3 yards per pass. That's terrible. I feel like all their passes were just like little out routes to running backs in the flat, like to Eli Gilman. That's kind of funny. Exactly 117 yards on the ground too. So they split it. 117 through the air, 117 on the ground. A little bit more success on the ground at 5.1 yards per carry, but they only were able to run the ball 23 times. They threw it 35 times and ran it just 23 times, even though they seemingly were having more success running the ball. 7 penalties for 60 yards on the Cats, just 2 for 15, for the Cats. I said the Cats. 7 for 60 on the Grizz. That's what I meant to say. No turnovers in this game. Not even any potential turnovers, no fumbles recovered by the offense or anything like that. And 34 minutes and 53 seconds of time possession to just 25 minutes and 7 seconds for the Grizz.
And fully stat. Well, it's true. Tommy Malott was 6 for 12 for 94 yards, and he had 10 touches, rushed the ball for 50 yards with a touchdown. Very, very pedestrian day for Tommy Malott. Almost like he's just, you know, back there administrating the ball,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily being the dynamic player that, we've known him to be. Not that he's not dynamic. It just he seemed like we were able to win this game going away without using him in a dynamic way. It's a better way of putting that. Adam Jones, 25 carries, a lion's share of the carries for sure. 197 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have a long of 88 yards, which we're all aware of. And I went back and I crunched the numbers. So we were averaging 50 carries for 328 with an average of 6.6. If you take off Adam Jones's 88 yards, that drops that average down to about 4.8. So just something to think about right there. Julius Davis had 7 touches for 39 yards. Had 1 reception for 4 yards. Colson Kuhn had 6 touches for 31. Ty McCullough had 2 for 13. Those are catches. He had an end around for 9 yards. Rohan Jones, probably the most beautiful catch of the season, one of them at least. 2 for 41, 1 touchdown on a 35-yard strike from Tommy Malott. An absolute dime. Taco Dowler made up for a drop pass by catching one down the sideline for a back shoulder catch for 36 yards. Miles Sandstead, 2 for 2 on field goals. Career long of 49. 49 and a half is what was reported on the broadcast. He was 4 for 4 for his extra points. Brendan Hall had 3 punts for 155 yards. He had a long of 66. Brendan Hall is such a weapon. That is something to be understated right there. There was no defensive stats reported from Montana State on their website. The stats were not logged in yet, so I have nothing to report on defensive stats. I would assume we had, 3 sacks at least in this game, maybe 4. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I'd say 4.
Yeah, and Kenneth, I think had 2 at least, and so we were definitely pressuring Fife. Fife was 18 for 34 for only 117 yards.
He was built up as the savior coming into this game, the
Yeah,
galvanizer.
and then Eli Gilman, 10 for 35. So 10 touches for 35 yards for Eli Gilman. Those are your stats.
Dominating.
It is dominating. It's also a little bit odd and perplexing that the Grizzlies did not take many shots downfield, that they had some weapons that could have hurt us. Ostensibly, Bergen and Keelan White and Cole Grossman. Eli Gilman, they did not give Gilman more touches to attack us. They had a lot of plays that were set up behind the sticks, essentially. And I just kept continuing to wonder why they weren't attacking us more, especially when Brody Greavy went out. It's like, why would you not send Gilman right after whoever was spelling Brody Greavy on that end? And so, yeah, I don't know. I want to say Montana State did a really good job. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. I just thought the Grizzlies' play calling was very perplexing in this game, at least offensively.
I mean, they got down 3 to 14 relatively quick, so that can alters your play calling a little bit typically. But yeah, it did seem they were having success running the ball. So yeah, they could have done it more. But yeah, I agree. Just overall, the game plan that they ran into Bozeman with was like, what are you doing?
A little bit, because remember you said last week, you're like, the thing I'm most worried about is passing up the seams on us and that kind of stuff. And we were talking about, keeping everything in front of us, not getting beat over the top. They tried none of that. And I can't really know, because this is just me being a fan. Was it because our coverage was that good? Were we disguising the coverage and making Fife hold on to the ball just that extra long and then being able to beat them? Coulter talked about this today on the Grizz fan pod, I did listen to it a little bit. He said that Montana State went to what he calls the Viper package, and this might be Montana State's lingo for it. It's basically when they put all defensive ends on the defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a speed rush, and we were able to cause a lot of havoc for that. And they did not account for it. They did not adjust apparently, and so Montana State had success with that. I just found, I thought Montana State's defense played remarkable. We were five only 117 yards on 34 attempts. That's Tommy Malott had 94 yards on 12 attempts.
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah,
it's
times it
just
by
weird.
3.
Yeah, it's just
Got
weird.
himself a 300-yard game.
So good job for the Montana State Bobcats. Equally, like just kind of perplexing on the Grizzlies. Like I just thought they would be more dynamic offensively.
The official stats only show 2 sacks by the Bobcats.
Okay, so I thought we had 3.
It felt like more, but yeah, we were pressuring Fife all day. The defense played great. I thought everybody played a great game. I thought the cornerbacks played really well. There was no like one single standout. It was just a complete team effort.
Zach
Maybe
Lavere
Rylan I would say Rylan might be the standout, as he had 11 tackles, and the next guy was Neil Daly with 5.
So Zach Lavere texted us just now. Grizz drive chart: punt, field goal, punt, turnover on downs, punt, touchdown, punt.
So beautiful.
It is beautiful. And just weird, man. It is weird. I'm not saying we wouldn't be able to adjust. And so I think a lot of Bobcat fans might be going like, Floyd, why you keep harping on this? I think I don't know. I just don't know if we got the best shot from the Grizzlies. And maybe that's because we just were dominating defensively. But I still feel it was a little bit like the Grizzlies left a little bit on the table to be desired as far as play calling and utilizing their weapons offensively.
I mean, if you follow the Grizz at all, like social media, fandom, any eGrizz, whatever, a general consensus complaint is not getting the playmakers the ball. And you can see that kind of on display in Bozeman. Like I could see why they complain about that. I don't watch a lot of Grizzly football anymore. I didn't watch a whole lot this year. I could see why you'd be complaining, like fans would be complaining. It just didn't seem like they really made an effort to get their best players the ball.
At the same time, I thought Montana State knew their cues. It was apparent that they had put in extra film because they were playing absolutely fast. They were one step ahead in many times. When they saw formations, Jeff Choate would say, because we got pulled behind the scenes, we saw him say, when they show that formation, you need to know the top 3 plays they run out of that formation. And it was pretty clear to me that Montana State knew their cues.
I mean, if you listen to my episode of the Jockway Allen, he's like, this offense ain't complicated.
Yeah. That's like a direct quote from him.
Yeah. He's like, you just got to know if a certain player comes out in a certain position, they're going to run a certain play. And maybe that was completely accurate.
Another quote from Coulter today via the GFP. Apparently he talked to some of our defensive coaches. I know him and Bobby Daly are friends, so I'm assuming it was probably Bobby Daly, but that's speculation on my part. But they said the Grizz could have hurt us in 12 different ways. And he kept coming back to the 12, but he said they did none of them. They chose to do none of them. There was like 12 different plays or spots where they could have taken advantage of us, and they exposed none of them. So I just thought that was interesting. And I don't know if I take that truthfully, like, okay.
I take that with a grain of salt for sure.
Yeah. Again, he was sitting on the GFP, so maybe he's hamming it up a little bit. I don't know. He doesn't seem like that would have been the case at that moment during that podcast, but for our defensive coaches to affirm that seemed like, well, maybe they did recognize some of the shortcomings, but on the counterpoint, the one thing I would have said was like, so how are we planning for that? Because we would have planned for that. We weren't just going to say, you know what, if you do this, you're going to get us. Acquiesce to their bad play or something. I'm not sure. So just kind of a funny taste in my mouth after that one.
I can't imagine any staff member on Montana State would straight up say, "Oh, they didn't do something that would have worked against us." I don't know. It's not. It seems odd to me.
Yeah, a little
Maybe,
bit,
maybe
right?
they were expecting like, hey, if they would have done this, they may have had some more success, or they
Hmm.
may have been able
Hmm.
to possibly get more. I don't know. I don't know how it was
Yeah,
all phrased, but
yeah,
I'm sure that the MSU defensive staff was maybe expecting some things that never happened.
yeah.
That's not surprising. That wouldn't surprise me.
All right. I'm going to pivot a little bit to a narrative that I keep reading about, and I want your thoughts on it. It's the subdued nature of the Cat Grizz this year. Multiple people on both sides said it's like a Cat Grizz that they have never experienced before. It was more subdued. The fewest amount of Grizz fans ever purportedly at the game. The vitriol just not there as much. There's incidents, of course, of people being just, cat crazed smack talk, but just the workman-like business nature of it, even the celebration was subdued per reports of people who were there. What's your take on that?
I don't know. I saw the videos of the chant being played during Moni Moni. That seemed pretty raucous to me. This is where it would have been nice to have maybe Zach on. He could kind of, unless this is from Zach, he could get a little bit more of a.
Zach did confirm. He said it was almost like a coronation rather than a celebration.
I think deep down, everybody on either side of the rivalry kind of knew the outcome of this game. I think maybe they were nervous, but I think if you really thought about it, like this is the least surprising result of anything that would have happened on Saturday.
Yeah.
Right. And I think Grizz fans knew that. And I think there was very minimal hype or trash talking from that side this year. On Twitter, I didn't see hardly any. Just silence. They didn't want. They knew they were probably going to get their butts kicked. And I think the Cat fans had this kind of nervous confidence that you get from being a Cat fan forever. Where why do I think we're going to win so much? I expect us to beat them, and now I'm freaking myself out.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel that way. So then you start like second guess, like I can't be this confident. That means we're gonna get smoked. So I think there's a lot of that. The Grizz knew they're gonna lose, and we were nervous that we were confident, and therefore it's just like a whole bunch of mild banter back and forth all week. I felt calm all week, and it was probably the least excited I've been coming into a Cat Grizz. Like the least amount of like butterflies or nerves or whatever you want to call it. I wasn't like I slept fine. I wasn't like a wreck all day leading up to it on Saturday. I was like just cool as a cucumber.
I wish I was there. I think my wife wish I was there as well. I still had the feels because I kept waiting for the shoe to drop in essence. Because it was like it was a weird feeling of like I do feel calm. I do feel we will win. I want to give a shout out to a guy who grew up in Great Falls, Clinton Topol. He posted this on Bobcat Nation. He said, "Hey guys, chill out. This is just another Big Sky Conference game." And and when you looked at it, like
It's not. It never will be.
yeah, but like that lens kind of put it in perspective to me to how quite a few Bobcat fans felt. It's like, hey, we got this in the bag. This is like playing Northern Arizona today or something. It didn't feel like the heaviness of the Cat Grays.
I mean, yeah, and substitute Grizzlies for any other team that was the same record, the same rank, had lost to Weber State at home. Like, are you terrified in the same way?
Yeah, I don't know, man. to me, like
It's still a
when I
top 10
was,
matchup, but
yeah, when I was getting down to it, what I was like, I do believe I was rooting for the 12-0 more than the win over the Grizz because I assumed we would get the win over the Grizz. The 12-0 was more special to me. It's the first time we've ever seen that. So I was
maybe that's
holding
part of it
that.
too. Everyone just kind of didn't want to talk about the undefeated record. They're just kind of
Yeah.
just didn't want to speak it, to curse it or something. I don't know. It was a subdued Cat Grizz year. It should have been hyped, but just really didn't. And I'm okay with that. It doesn't need to be this stress creating frenzy every single year.
No, it's just interesting because it's kind of mysterious to me.
Well, I live a little bit north of Bellingham, which calls itself the city of subdued excitement. So a little bit of that going on here.
They do?
Yes. Bellingham is the city of subdued excitement.
It's a really weird
It is.
moniker.
It's a weird town, man.
Okay, so I'm gonna serve you up another question because apparently that's what we do on this podcast. I ask questions, you respond. It's good stuff.
No, it's not. You're sad. I never ask you any questions.
Yes, I am a little bit sad. uh, okay, 2 weeks in a row, I thought the run game was semi-stifled. UC Davis had a good plan against us, and Montana executed a pretty good plan against us. We eventually took their soul in the game, and kudos again to Coach Walker for not abandoning it. But I have a bit of concern, a little bit of concern creeping up in me, and it has nothing to do with who's running the ball. I think our run attack is prolific enough that if it's just Jones and not Scottree, or hopefully we get Davis back, that we should be able to have that 6-7 yards a carry that we're normally seeing. Do you have any concerns about a run game?
I have concerns on the health. So I will flip a question back to you. Can Adam Jones take us to Frisco?
Yeah, I think he can.
I'm not sure. He has that's a lot of carries for one guy. So
It is.
okay,
It's
let's
not
say
like he's been shouldering the load this year.
No, he hasn't, but we have been sharing the load around. So now to go to a one running back guy who was only spelled out because he's tired from running an 88-yard sprint. I don't know. It's a different feel to me.
Like a sub question to that is where is Jared White?
Right? I was expecting him to be the first guy off the bench, and we saw Colson Kuhn come in.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know.
Is he out of favor?
Yeah. As Kuhn jumped him, is White dinged up? It's a little bit of a storyline because all of a sudden those guys are the 2 and the 3.
Yeah. And White, to me, always had that extra juice, that little twitch that you didn't see in other players. Elijah Elliott had that same twitch. Still not certain with Elijah Elliott why he hasn't played this year. Have never heard confirmed anything on that, but it's clear that he hasn't been healthy.
Mac just texted us a very pertinent. It's like he's listening to us. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
He's like, we need at least one of them to get back healthy if we want to get back and win in Frisco. Scottree and Davis. It's funny.
Yeah, I think Scottree does come back. I think he got 1 carry in this. What was his line? Did I even write it down? I think it did.
He may have had 2 carries, but he was not Scottree Humphrey.
It's got to be an ankle, right, for him? I think it's an ankle, not a.
And somebody on Bobcat Nation, it might have been Vim, said the kind of injury it is, he might not be back to the way he was the rest of the year.
Is it a high ankle sprain that they're thinking for him?
I have no idea, but Scottree's been such a big part of our group, man.
Yeah.
He's the guy that you want to give the ball to, on 3rd and 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, maybe Jones shines with the bigger load. Maybe now that he is the dude, that he embraces that and just takes off for some guys it does that.
Yeah.
When you are the man, it affirms you and you have everybody behind you. I'm just worried about. I thought we would be able to run over everybody, and there was a lot of 1 to 2 yard runs against Davis
Yeah.
and the Grizzlies, where you're like, well, they figured something out against us, and
Yeah.
so
No, you're right.
that has something to do with either the scheme or probably the scheme.
Yeah, I mean, there's two good rushing defenses that have statistically good rushing defenses, but
Yeah.
yeah, Davis really stymied us. And the Grizz, I mean, outside of the 88-yard run, did a pretty good job of bottling up the Cats too. But how much of that is not really using Tommy? Like Tommy rushed 10 times. It didn't feel like he rushed 10 times.
Yeah. And another part
I still
is
felt like there's a lot more times he still could have pulled it. It still feels like it's there for him and he's still giving it. I don't know if that's just the directive from, but it feels like he could pull it and have these big gains a lot more than he has been. Maybe that's just me being not knowing anything about the football. And plus, it's TV angle. You don't really see past the edge of the TV. There could be a linebacker sitting right there. I don't know, but
Tommy's the fastest player on the field. It's a shame that we don't just unleash that beast. And maybe we're waiting for it. Maybe it is.
maybe it's still coming. Maybe we knew going in this game that Adam Jones and Colson Kuhn could beat the Grizzlies, which is kind of funny. But that's actually a possibility, I think.
We came out that first drive, 80 yards, all of them runs. I was like, we're going to run all over these mofos.
I thought that was the start of the avalanche.
Yeah. And there was never an avalanche to be had. This one was, in essence, though, I thought this one was more satisfying than just crushing them right away, because in the last couple iterations of the brawl, it feels like the team that has won has done exactly what you just said, captured it right away, and the other team was so much buried that in essence they don't give up, but they just knew that it wasn't going to happen that day. This was more like a slow death for the Grizzlies, which was pretty sweet in totality and a little bit more impressive because the Cats had to play the whole game and they never relinquished. They answered every call that Montana gave us.
This was the least blowout-y one in Cat Grizz in a while.
Yeah.
Which is funny, 34-11, but it never felt like the Cats blew them out. It also never felt like the Grizz were going to win.
Grizz only had 3 points going into half.
Yeah.
It was
23 at halftime. It's like, with the way the Grizz were operating, like, I just don't see the Grizz coming back in this one.
Yeah, so they made some adjustments right after that first drive, and they were able to fix some stuff. And I think the thing that maybe we are glossing over is how many players they're putting in the box. 6, 7, 8 at a time sometimes to stuff our run. And sometimes it's a number of things. But yeah, I want to know what our run game looks like going into this stretch coming up. Because if we can, there's a magic number in my brain. I think if we can get to 300, we don't lose.
It does seem to kind of be the number. I think I said 275 when we talked about our pregame show is what I was hoping to see for Cat Grizz, and I feel confident in that. And I still think that's a good number for the Cats, but 300 is like, it's a win, right? We're not going to lose a game we rush for 300 yards. We're just not.
Yeah, and now the Cats can look up at the big scoreboard, and I know that motivates them. We've heard that the offensive line uses that beautiful scoreboard as a motivator. They just look at that yardage.
It's pretty funny.
300, it's the mark.
Oh, sorry. Yawning, fading. My beautiful mood is turning into tiredness. How big of a loss do you think Rohan Jones is if he can't come back next week or the first game?
Huge. I think he comes back. I'm not too worried about Rohan.
Yeah.
I'm worried about Davis, though.
Yeah, but I love Davis, but he hasn't been a part of the team for most of the success they've had this year.
That's true.
So I feel bad for him, but I'd rather have a healthy Jones and Humphrey. Like that's just
Think,
what we've had this year, and it's worked well.
yeah.
I mean,
Humphrey Camps goes.
that's a part we didn't really talk. I mean, you talk about the Davis game. Humphrey went out in that game, and Humphrey didn't play this game. That's part of the running back. No, I want to say issues, but taken down a step.
Yeah, you're right. And you can see now that why Scottree was running back number 1.
Yeah.
I mean, Adam Jones is the dude.
He's good.
So is Julius Davis. But then you go, oh, yeah, Scottree was number 1. And when he's out, there is a bit of...
It's noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
He hits those holes so hard and fast, harder and faster than anybody else on the team does.
Yeah.
With just like reckless abandon. And then he just mows guys over. He's so physical. He's a really good running back.
He has really good vision.
Yep. He's worked hard on that. And his patience.
So
he's an elite back. So I think we need at least 2 of the 3 to be healthy for me to feel pretty good about a run to Frisco. Now, I don't know, their first potential game is either Idaho or Richmond. And we beat Idaho once. And Richmond has the 27th best rushing defense in the country. I just Googled that just now. Do we want to see anything else about Cat Grizz, or do you want to talk a little bit about the bracket and some of that kind of stuff?
I feel like there was one more talking point about Cat Grizz that I had to get to, but of course it's escaped my brain.
I mean, there's the overarching conversation about just where the Cats are winning the game, the rivalry game. We talked quite a bit about that Saturday. Fair amount here tonight. I don't know, man. I feel like I've said enough about Cat Grizz. Like you said, there's got to be something else we're missing. I every time I listen back to our episodes, I'm like, yeah, we totally missed this gigantic talking point.
Yeah. It's so true.
It's because we stopped taking notes, basically. At least I did. This is all just off the cuff. I used to prepare documents and talking points and like a bullet points, and it just slowly over the years turned into just me just turning on the microphone and like not even having my ad read up. I had to get the stats up at the last second so I could read that.
Well, that's a work upon for you, Thorny.
It is.
Be more prepared in the future.
Getting lazy, just getting cocky. I'm going to show up to this job and just turn on the mic.
So, I think the last thing I would say about the Cat Grizz is if that is a snapshot of our running game going forward, Montana State will have a plan. They're going to be like, well, Adam Jones, you're our guy, but if he goes down, is it the Colston Kuhn show? Is it what's our rotation look like? Here's what I'm thinking. I think it's going to be the Adam Jones show on whoever we play, UT Martin or New Hampshire. I think Scotchy comes back for the quarterfinal.
I think that's probably accurate.
Yeah.
I think we've seen that this year where the coaches feel they can beat a team without X player.
Yeah.
And I imagine they'll feel like they can beat either Idaho or Richmond or UT Martin without Scottree Humphrey.
Yeah.
Would be my guess.
So, yeah. Fingers crossed we can see Scottree again, but if we have to hold him off for the next game, well, then that's what we do. If we have to hold him out for 3 games, you do what you got to do. If he can somehow be healthy in the semifinal or maybe even Frisco, then you count it as a blessing, right? All right.
That's right.
Okay, let's talk about, we'll put the Cat Grizz to bed. It's awesome, man. You know what I did today? I should tell you this. This would be funny. So Skyline put out that like 2.5 minute video that captured the Cat Grizz. I showed it to every single one of my classes. Because I got a couple girls that come in Grizz sweatshirts. And they
Yeah,
just looked at
really?
me and they're like, they just kind of like averted their eyes. And I was wearing my Montana State hat this today at school. I was like, just, just touching my hat, just, doing one of these
Uh-huh.
and adjusting it on my head. And then when we were talking about what was good over the weekend, it's like, I watched the Cat Grizz. And I just thought I'd, show you a short film on it, 2.5 minutes of it. So
Nice. You showed them that little skyline
yeah,
film.
it was really good.
It was.
It was really good. All right.
Brought a tear to my eye. The whole day, man. It was a fantastic day to be a Bobcat fan, and then to watch like Dakota State lose it simultaneously, knowing now like we just secured the number 1 seed. The debate was put to bed. There's going to be such a big debate on should the Cats be number 1 over a 12 or 11-1 NDSU. Didn't matter anymore.
Didn't
It all came up
anymore.
Cats.
Let's go. Let's go.
Let's go.
All right. Talk to me about the playoff bracket. Anything you want to point out on this?
Do you think Idaho should be the 8th seed?
Give me your argument for them being the 6th seed.
Mercer
Or
didn't have any
7th
good
seed.
wins. And where's my bracket? I need to pull it up again to see who. Incarnate Word also had like a bad loss and a bad, like no good wins. I don't know. An Idaho team, I don't know. It just seemed brutal for them. But now I'm looking down. If you're going straight on win-loss records, no other team in the top 8 has 3 losses, and they do have 3 losses. It came down to an argument of were their wins and losses better or worse. At the end of the day, they just had more losses, I think. Period.
Yeah, which sucks because they played Oregon, the other undefeated team in the United States.
Yeah, right.
And they get penalized for that. So they
Well,
played them tough.
I mean, yes, but this is pretty common. Most top 25 teams in the FCS will have an FBS loss. So I don't know. For most of the season until they played us, that was like a resume builder for them. Look how tough they played at Oregon, and then they lost to us, and then all of a sudden the Oregon loss turned into like a negative on the resume. Kind of weird how that script got flipped a little bit. I don't know. I feel like Idaho would beat Incarnate Word or Mercer pretty handily. But it gives us Idaho, which I don't know. How do you feel about Idaho being our potential matchup?
I feel fine about it. It's I mean, they got to get past Richmond first if that's who they're going to play.
Yeah. And I misspoke. I meant UT Martin. That's who we might play. Richmond plays Lehigh, so Idaho will play either Lehigh or Richmond.
Yeah,
but they'll probably play Richmond.
Yeah. So in Richmond, it looks like to be the most dangerous CAA team.
Yes.
Yeah, that's tough. To be honest with you, nothing about playing Idaho really gives me the worries as much as I thought it would. We just smoked them 38-7. I know it wasn't Jack Lane. It was this other quarterback, whatever. We were able to attack their defense. And I think that's what it comes down to. I think if we get into a game with them, we'll be able to attack their defense just like we used to. So I'm not too worried about that, man. And they will have a different plan. The only thing that really kind of concerns me when playing Idaho is Jason Eck. I think he's a fantastic in-game coach. He has a little bit of a gambler's mentality, and that's something we've spoke about. Sometimes it hurts him, but he'll go for it on 4th and down. And those plays sometimes are big influencers in momentum. And he's all about momentum. That guy lives for it. So
I mean, that game in Bozeman may have gone a different way if they converted on a couple of those early on.
Oh,
we
absolutely.
stuffed them. So that was one of the gambles you talked about when it bites them. That was a game that bit them. But we played that game 10 times, and maybe that works out for them 4 times, and the whole different outcome.
Yeah, and they had they had 1 or 2, maybe even 3 drops where you're like, ooh, we kind of got lucky on that one. And then we just snowballed them. So things went well for us that game. And then things did not go well for Idaho. Some of it was just kind of bad luck for Idaho. So, yeah, if we get them again, I think we still beat them. I don't know if it's going to be a 38-7 win, but I would still favor the Bobcats in that game.
Yep. I know they're chomping at the bit. You don't want to play a healthy team. Nobody wants to play a healthy Idaho. Montana State doesn't want to play a healthy Idaho. I'm like, I don't know. I don't feel overly concerned about it.
Well, here's what it is. It comes down to the lines of scrimmage. So our offensive line is better than theirs, and our defensive line is deeper than theirs.
Yes.
I mean, when you win that battle, most of the time you're going to win the game in the FCS, in football in general.
With Jack Lane, maybe they'll score more than 7 points, but their defense hasn't been stopping a lot of people. I was looking at their scores. They're giving up points. I mean, they only gave up 17 or something to Idaho State, but Idaho State kind of crashed into the wall at the end of the season.
They did. They completely melted. I thought after Idaho State came off, beating or came off of our game, that they would have kind of an easy path to maybe a 6-5, maybe a 6-6 or 7-5, but nope. They kind of just melted down the path. So
gave up 77 points to Eastern and fired their defensive coordinator the week before. So of course the game against Idaho wasn't going to be much of a contest.
I would have liked to seen, though, like, to be honest with you, Mercer in that 8 spot.
Or I'd rather play Mercer than Idaho.
Or Incarnate Word, any of those would have been nice.
Incarnate Word, I wouldn't really want to play. They sling the ball around. They would test our secondary.
Just hope that game is just a snowy mess and that we can just run it down their throats and they want to be done by halftime. It's a 9 p.m. kickoff. Holy cow. So that's a 7 o'clock kickoff for Montana State.
UC Davis at 5. What do you think about that?
UC Davis at 5. Fully deserved. That's probably the team I was most impressed with. I thought Davis, here's a shot at the Grizzlies, and I thought Davis was way better than the Grizzlies.
Yes.
In spades, better than Grizzlies.
They looked
more disciplined.
Looked more physical. They look bigger. They look like dudes off the bus more than the Grizz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was a tougher game for us for sure. So, I'm super impressed with Davis. After we played them, I couldn't say enough good things about that program.
Gosh, I'm just now kind of looking at the bracket for the rest of a lot of things for the first time. That is a tough draw for Davis. SEMO, I don't think is particularly good. Illinois State, a 9-3 Valley team. You don't want that very much. I was hoping we would knock Illinois State. I didn't know where they'd be seated, but that's not a fun team to play.
It does feel right for them to have a potential matchup with South Dakota because I feel like those two teams are kind of evenly matched. Maybe I haven't watched any South Dakota, but from what people have said, that seems like those two guys can go at it and knock each other around, and then one of them will come out on top. Just like I feel like it feels good to have the Dakota States on the other side of the bracket too, and have them kind of knock each other around and see who comes out on top.
Yeah, we got South Dakota on our side, and they got a pretty easy first round matchup. They'll play the winner of Tarleton or Drake. It's like, ugh. Tarleton State can maybe give a little bit of fits, but I imagine it's either going to be South Dakota and Davis or South Dakota and Illinois State in that quarterfinal, and Montana State and probably, gosh, I kind of think Richmond might beat Idaho.
Yeah.
Richmond's hot right now, man.
Yeah.
They're playing really good football. And Idaho, I mean, they've had some ups and downs in the playoffs since Eck got there.
Oh, for sure. Like last year when they had all their stud offensive players and then they melted against...
Was it Albany?
Yeah.
Albany. They lost to Albany at home.
In the Kiwi Dome. You're like, what? Where did that come from?
Yeah. It's crazy that Richmond is the highest seeded CAA team. That's just what the CAA is now. It used to be like one of the premier conferences, and now your best team gets you a 9 seed.
Was it James Madison in the CAA, or were they in the
They
Southern?
were. Well,
Okay.
they were for a long time anyway.
Yeah.
They might have changed there at the very end a couple times or something, but yes, majority of the time they were CAA. Delaware, which is moving up. So Delaware actually, they were top 10, top 15 for a long time. They were just ineligible for the playoffs. What's funny about Illinois State, I forgot to mention this, they are not hosting SEMO.
Yeah, because of a high school
Because they have a
football
high
game.
school playoffs in their stadium and they can't host in their own stadium. This is a prime example of why I don't want to be in the FCS anymore. You think any legit FBS team has this problem?
I think Coulter made a good point today, and this is not my thought, it is his. If you take away the top 4, whoever they are, in South Dakota State, Montana State, North Dakota State, Team X, after that, whatever that is, the rest of the field becomes pretty interesting in a playoff.
Yeah.
Really interesting in a playoff. That's something I would enjoy watching.
Well, hopefully we don't have to.
Yeah. I would like to get to some golden coolies.
Yeah,
Do you have any other thoughts on the bracket? I'm sure we're going to talk about it a ton in the next couple of weeks.
I was surprised NAU squeaked in 8-4.
I'm not. They deserved it.
I think they deserved it. I just wasn't sure they would get it.
So, yeah, Montana fell a lot further than I thought they would, and they're on the opposite end of the bracket. They're going to have, of course, they bought themselves the ESPN2 game this Friday. Was it this Friday? It's probably this Saturday against Tennessee State. And if they win that one, they have a rematch with South Dakota State in Brookings. Oh man, it tickles me pink to see them.
Nope, they'll get their home win on ESPN2, which will be a highlight for them. Like, good for them, but that will be their end of their season.
Yeah.
No, nothing else about the FCS bracket.
No, all right.
Just happy to have that 1 seed, baby. We do not have to leave
Bobcats.
Bozeman.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. A couple of Golden Coolie questions from Bobcat Nation. Four Corners Cat. This is not a question. He just said he had a suggestion. He said, when I was listening to you guys talk about your fake gambling games and giving prizes to the winner, the thought immediately came that this was a great way to justify a batch of pocket squares. He wants us to make a batch of pocket squares and then kind of give them out like golden coolies.
People would have no idea what they are.
Absolutely not. They would like wave them around like a little towel.
Yeah, like dab their sweat off their head or blow their nose in them.
Is this a hanky? Well, kind of. Yeah, it is.
I mean, it kind of is a hanky.
Yeah.
It's a well-dressed hanky.
Orange Crush. Great name. First post, like literally post number 1 says, did this win feel more like a relief than the usual glorious win against the Grizz? A loss this year would have been devastating.
I think it felt like taking care of business.
It felt like more of a relief to me, yes, because the 12-0 was in the bag, number 1 seed locked up, and the Grizz just happened to be in the way of that. And so, yes, more like business as usual.
I really think that 1-0 mentality might be bleeding into the fandom too. I don't know. It could be part of the lackluster. I was like, it's so business-like. It's just like win that 1-0, and that's what we did on Saturday. Just that 1-0. That was just another 1-0 for Brent Vigen and the Bobcats.
Then you got a fan base who like never gets too high, never gets too low. We're just like, yep, this is what it is. That's something I don't want, actually. As a fan base, I that's why we're fans, for the feels. I want to get the highs of the highs. I don't want to be like even keel through this run. And I think Thorny too, something I was thinking about today. It's okay for the cats to like enjoy this. Like we don't have to be these little robots going like, yeah, that's what we expected. Now
Yeah,
on to
right.
Frisco, right? Enjoy the moment. Like totally appreciate it. Reflect on it. Feel happy and bask in that for a little bit, Bobcats. I hope the players do, because if it comes down to it and they're like, yeah, we deserve that 1 seed, they should whoop that up, because that's a big accomplishment. Like if you never enjoy the things that come your way through the hard work, you're never going to enjoy them. You'll look back and go, that was a missed opportunity. So I do hope they take time to not be so laser focused, if that's the way of putting it. Just enjoy the moment, boys, because it's a good moment for them.
They were celebrating like crazy in the locker room. Like you see all the, again, you don't have Twitter, but there are lots of posts or pictures of the guys smoking cigars
Oh, nice. Good
in
for them.
the locker room. They were having a good time, man. They enjoyed it in the moment on Saturday.
There you go.
Who knows
Cage
on Sunday? Back to business.
Cage Rage says, after watching our lines against New Mexico, Idaho, Davis, have we finally closed the gap with the Dakota States on the lines of scrimmage on both sides of the ball?
I don't know. I've been mulling this in my head for, gosh, there was a game that I came out of it feeling that way. I asked you and Zach about. I don't remember what game it was, but I'm not sold yet, but I'm not discouraged. It's still a wait and see for me.
Yeah, I think we have. I didn't think we were that far away last year when we played them in South Dakota. So I'm there, man. So
maybe close the gap, but not like eliminate the gap. I don't know. We'll see. Unfortunately, we'll see.
Tommy Mellott, greatest Bobcat quarterback, or greatest Bobcat quarterback?
Wait, what?
Oh, it says great Bobcat quarterback or greatest Bobcat quarterback. That's from MSU 01.
Great Bobcat quarterback. It's hard to argue the body of work in terms of wins and losses. If that's what you solely base your quarterback on, he probably is the greatest quarterback Montana State's ever had.
Gosh, this is such a hard one for me.
It just does not pass the like traditional quarterback eye test that you expect as a football fan. But if that's
what you're
okay.
beholden to, yeah, that's I get that. If it is just the traditional quarterback that you want, you got Travis Lulay, you got Denarius Miggy. Those guys should be in the same sentence as Tommy Mellott. But Tommy Mellott has done it in a different way, through his legs, through his quiet leadership, and just winning. And there's something that you and I kind of like to discount because of that. But he's an amazing quarterback. I don't know. My palate still says Travis Lulay, Denarius McGee.
Yep. But it's hard to argue, though. Like, he belongs in the conversation. Tommy Mellott belongs in that conversation. Whether you put him at number one, I think it's very debatable. He belongs in the conversation.
You know, if he goes and wins national championship and we have a undefeated season, it'd be hard not to.
He's the king, man. You give him the crown at that point. I don't think you can even argue it.
Yeah, and I think that's it on Bobcat Nation.
Shea Richter asked us one. This is going to be a little bit hard for me to get the gist of. He said he was going to go dry December, but now with the seeding as the number one seed, we may have a clear path to the home semifinal game. It's almost impossible not to have a barley soda. So do you roll it to January and risk not being able to drink in Frisco? The superstitious question, which we appreciate here.
I've done a dry January last couple Januaries, and I've kind of been booting. I don't know if I want to do it anymore. So yeah, I think just moderation's a better way to go about this. So how about this, Shay? If you're a guy that likes to have a beer nightly, then take the week off and then limit yourself to maybe Friday, Saturday or something during that month. And I think you'll be okay.
So your suggestion is not to do dry December or dry anything at all. Just scale back what you've been doing.
Yeah. If your MO is to have a beer, 5 nights a week, then cut it back to 2 nights a week.
I think you make an exception for Frisco. If you want to do dry December and dry January, treat yourself to that discipline with a drink in Frisco if the Cats make it.
Mm.
That's what I think. I think it's like a reward for everyone. Reward for yourself, for being a Bobcat fan also, but also the discipline you've shown to that point. Unless you believe in superstition, then don't do it because you haven't drank that far and we won all our playoff games. So then in that scenario, do not drink anything. I mean, I will be wearing my Gold Rush shirt. I wore it for Cat Grizz on behest of you guys on the conversation from last week. I said, what do we wear? Or what do I wear? And we all decided I should wear my Gold Rush shirt. And I got a little sweaty in it. I got a little nervous sweat. I do that from time to time. So my shirt got a little riper.
Yeah, that nervous sweat's the stuff that stinks too. Yeah, if you don't want that.
And it's not washed. It will not be washed. I will roll into Frisco with it. I swear to God.
Pit stains and all.
Everything. In its full glory. So yeah. Don't know. Sorry, that was a couple weird roundabout answers for you, Shay. Godspeed.
Anything else, Ryan?
That's really all I have.
Same.
All right.
Call it. Let's do it. Put a stamp on it.
Put a stamp on it. Put a stamp on the regular season. The Bobcats certainly did on Saturday by stamping the Grizzlies into the turf. Love to see it. Thank you for listening all season long. We appreciate everyone who listens to the show and interacts with us and meets with us when we get a chance to meet with people. It's just it's a joy. It's just what brings a lot of happiness to Ryan and I as we do this podcast. You can always find us on rrcatcast.com. You can find us on bobcatnation.com. He is Common Cat. I am Celtic Cat. We have a couple different threads that we try and bump up every once in a while. Fully, man, let's get out of here. Cat Grizz, victory, go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.